may not need to edit anything because I had that, and also there's some sort of child community.
But you mean like on the broadcast, what she's saying about her, to the world, what she's saying about her kid. So you have to edit it.
And I know she's the final call. Jane doesn't care anymore. She doesn't have anything.
All right, we're going to go 3 minutes late. So we're going to go ahead and strike this bell. Isn't that definitive? Well, good morning, everyone. For those of you I haven't met, I'm the Reverend Jennifer Brower, and on behalf of my colleagues on the ministry team, the Reverend Dr. Natalie Fenimore and the Reverend Jay Brooks, and today's folks here on the chancel, it's my privilege to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. As people of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we celebrate the spirit of life that dwells within each person. We honor the diversity of theological and philosophical belief brought together in our gathering. And we affirm the use of reason and direct experience in our religious search for truth and meaning. We hope that each person who crosses our threshold in search of a spiritual home will feel themselves very warmly received. Today's service is led by the members of the LGBTQ+ subcommittee of our Social Justice Committee. Susan Roberts, chair of our LGBTQ+, and the members who will participate in worship today will be available afterward, and I hope that each of you will make a point of stopping to greet them and meet them and share with them your affirmation and praise for today's service. We are so glad to have the LGBTQ+ group back in the life of the congregation after our interweave committee went very quiet for a couple of years, which you'll hear more about. Immediately after this morning's service, we'll reconvene, as we always do, in the social hall for coffee and conversation and for the UU Cafe, where lunch can be purchased for a very modest price. If this is your first Sunday with us, we hope that you will not only stay for lunch, but that you'll allow us to treat you to lunch. If you just stop by the welcome table in the lobby on your way into the social hall, you'll be given a guest ticket for lunch today. And now, friends, before we enter into our service proper, I have a few announcements to share with you. As I do, I invite you to take this time to turn off your cell phones' notifications and ringers and other sounds. If you choose to take photographs, that's fine. If you choose to identify that you're here and posting your status, that's fine too. But please do turn off the sounds that go along with those devices. I'd invite you to turn to the calendar in the order of service. We have a whole host of activities, of course, for the week ahead. The calendar for the next week is listed there. We have announcements today from our Adult Programs Committee. After worship, they invite you to come visit their table in the lobby to learn more about the Our Whole Lives, the OWL program for adults. Many of you are familiar with the OWL program, which has been offered for many, many years for children of different developmental stages and ages, starting, of course, with our 9th graders. But this is Our Whole Lives, OWL, for adults. OWL helps participants to clarify their values, build interpersonal skills, and understand the spiritual, emotional, and social aspects of sexuality. So we invite you to sign up for the introductory session for OWL for adults, which will be held on October 20th. There will be more information at the Adult Programs Committee table in the lobby. Our religious education program is reminding us to bring in food for the food drive next Sunday, October the 13th, in celebration of the Jewish Harvest Festival of Sukkot. So you will see more information about that in the order of service as well. Of course, if you have any questions about what you're seeing in the order of service, the calendar of activities and programs, please don't hesitate to stop by the membership table and ask there, or stop one of the ministers or a member of the staff and ask us. We're happy to help you engage here at Shelter Rock. In our life together as a community that encourages spiritual growth, each year members have the opportunity to grow the spiritual gift of generosity through the financial pledge process. This morning, we have the privilege of hearing why membership is meaningful for Meg Cohen, who is the chair this year of our membership committee. and is usually found out at that membership table in the lobby. We've given her a break from her table duties to come in here and assist us with this portion of the service. I've given her permission to leave too. She said, but I have to go back to the table. So after she shares with us why membership is meaningful for her and why she is pledging, we'll let her return to the lobby to meet and greet. Meg?
Thank you, Reverend. Today we are here to celebrate our UU first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our UU third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth and in our congregation. I have been a Unitarian Universalist for over 30 years. As an out lesbian single parent of two for many of those years, I experienced the harsh reality of judgment and discrimination. I am grateful to be a member of UUCSR, where I enjoy not only acceptance, but respect for who I am. UUCSR recently revived its LGBTQ group as a subcommittee of the Social Justice Committee. The group inspires and celebrates our never-ending commitment to be a welcoming and inclusive congregation. Membership in UUCSR is the gift I give myself that feels like a warm hug in a loving community. UUCSR is an invaluable part of my life and my family's life. Here, members enjoy life-affirming celebrations, and when we are faced with life's challenges, our wonderful ministers and caring community are here for us. Here, where our divine light shows through in a rainbow of colors, whoever we are, whatever your faith tradition, this is your place. Please remember just how much UUCSR means to you when making your annual pledge. Thank you.
Time to contribute and keep your membership active for the 2019-2020 year is now. A financial pledge and payment on that pledge must be made between today and the end of December for your membership through June 30th. So please do stop by the Financial Development Committee's table and make your pledge and payment on that pledge, please. As we find our way with regard to embodiment and applause during Sunday morning worship, today we invite you to be embodied in some way. Susan wants everybody to hold hands. So if you're feeling like holding hands, hold hands with your neighbors today. I know the choir will model that easily. The rest of us may say like, ooh, germs. So, if you're thinking like, ooh, germs, you don't have to hold hands. We have some hand holding. All right, so you're practicing very nicely. When it comes to applause, let's talk about applause. When it comes to applause, we're going to invite you to hold your expression of gratitude for the music and spoken word until after the postlude has been played. At that time, your generous applause, communicating how your heart and head and spirit have been touched and moved by all that has been offered by our incredibly talented musicians and our thoughtful worship leaders, will be gratefully appreciated. Finally now, before we greet one another, I'd like to welcome and introduce the Reverend Michael Crumpler, who is the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Michael is a minister with the United Church of Christ and is active in social justice ministry at the historic Judson Memorial Church in the city and the surrounding queer community. We are so honored that Michael has agreed to be with us this morning, has chosen to worship with us here on Long Island today, and we look forward to getting to know him and more about his ministry following the service. I hope that you'll take the time to meet and greet him afterward, and we hope that he will come back and be with us again and again in the year to come. And friends, now I invite you to rise as you're comfortable and as easy for you and greet those closest to you, making sure to introduce yourself to those you don't know.
have, and I look forward to being here more. I've not. And it's so close.
It's like this whole college.
No, I'm not put off by that at all. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's a beautiful town. I grew up in, like, it reminds me of, I grew up in Bergen County, like northern Bergen County, and it reminds me of Mala. Yeah, it's really good. It's great. It's great to see a thriving community. Yeah, right? And it's good to see that we can do it.
You can go with her.
I'm going on this side. Switch.
Prelude. Come with me.
Okay.
Come with me.
We do not choose our souls. Instead, the soul calls us to recognize our unique gifts. We can choose to listen to that inner calling, which resonates with the deep harmonies of space, or we can choose to bury, muffle, and ignore it. Both choices have lasting consequences to our health and our relationships.
Our chalice lighting reflections is called Blessed Are the Trailblazers, written by the co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Mr. Barb Grieve. Blessed are the trailblazers who brought us this far and are still trailblazing, still celebrating.
Blessed are the drag queens and kings who remind us not to take life too seriously.
Blessed are the gender benders, non-binary, gender fluid, and third gender folk, those who challenge us to reframe our gender paradigm.
Blessed are the young ones who present fearlessly from the start.
Blessed are their parents who make space for freedom and love their children fearlessly.
Blessed are the siblings and relatives who educate, support, and love us as we are.
Blessed are the genderqueer youth, those who are fabulously flourishing and those who are struggling and persist.
Blessed are the 90-year-olds just coming out and those who have been out for decades.
Blessed are those whose lives are cut too short. May their stories live on through us.
Blessed are the survivors. May they keep on living.
Blessed are the allies learning to be accomplices.
Blessed are those gathered here today, witnessing, learning, and celebrating.
May we all commit to continue showing up, fighting for justice, celebrating all the genders of life. Amen. Ashe. May it be so.
Please stand if you are able for hymn number 188 in the gray hymnal.
And we're going to do it as a round. So let's sing it through all the way once from the beginning to end, and then we'll divide the congregation down the center aisle, and we'll have folks on that side start, and soprano tenors, you can start with them, and basses and altos. So one time, all the way through, and then we'll do it twice as a round.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Stephanie Felix Kellerman, and most of you know me from my 25 years as a UUCSR member. And if you want somebody who feels like they've been here a long time, ask them to do the historical perspective. I got involved in what was called Gay Concerns right away, about 23 years ago. Most of the members then were straight people who cared about making a difference. And we made a difference on every level. I remember making a lot of speeches to this congregation at forums and the many events that we held. The day that I remember most, though, it was in the social hall, and I was doing one of my usual spiels about becoming a welcoming congregation, and it was a series of events, and this guy stood up, and he said, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." I said, "Great. We're regular people. We're just regular people." And I have kind of like based my life, like I want that on my tombstone. I'm regular. I just, like, all of a sudden to this guy, and I saw him as a symbol of all the other people out there that didn't talk. He says, "I'm not afraid of you anymore." We won. We won. And so when the denomination came up with the concept of Interweave, we changed our name and became a full-fledged committee to the congregation. And because to interweave was to become a full part within every UU congregation. And over the course of a decade, we did. We interwove. So, and over this time, more and more people joined this congregation. It wasn't just me and Merton. And all of a sudden, we had people on the board, on every committee, the Hadley House Board, Veach Board, as regular people. It wasn't like token appointments. We were regular people. And so by 2011 was when legal marriage came around. Yeah, that's me. Me and Jenny. In 2011 wasn't even that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago to me. Because people didn't really think about federal marriage. Yeah, we were married here before federal marriage by Jennifer because we wanted to be married here before we started having children. But then federal marriage, all of a sudden, the idea that, yes, we too can have Social Security and SSI benefits for our kids, it became important. And so we participated in this traveling marriage panel that went around to UU Huntington and some Christian churches just to talk about it, to talk to the other members of those congregations, to show them we're regular people. So the membership of Interweave, it started to fade away around 2014 because we had interwoven. A lot of our original members died, moved away, and we couldn't get new people to join. And then when I had my second kid, I just stopped and I moved. So I got here less. And then when I found out that it was like the little engine that something sprouted up after I left, I was very excited about that. It happened. It just, it spontaneously occurred. And I thought that was really great. So when Jennifer told me about this service, the historical perspective, but we're still here. We're still here in this congregation and other UU congregations and other religions across this world, just being regular people. And so, yeah, there's pictures of our 2 baby namings, and it's nice. And if it wasn't for the full-time support of this pulpit, things would have been different. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Michael Kelly. I'm a professional opera singer, and I want to thank everyone for welcoming me here today. I'm a proud out cisgender gay man, and 2011 was a really big year for equality in this country. It happened to be a big year for me professionally. I won a competition in 2011 that the prize for that competition was that I got presented in a what we call a debut recital. It's like the professional world sort of welcomes you with a celebration of your performance. For that recital, I chose to tell my personal story about being a gay man and coming out. The entire recital was themed around that, but I wanted it to be even more personal. So I asked a composer friend of mine to write a cycle of songs for me to sing on that recital. That was inspired by the It Gets Better project. If you don't know what that is, it's part of the Trevor Project, which is a LGBTQ youth supportive organization. And the It Gets Better project was a spin-off where anyone with a Wi-Fi connection could upload a video of themselves speaking and trying to send the message to LGBTQ youth that it gets better, that when you're young, it feels like you're alone, and you'll find your people in the world. And I was so inspired to tell my version of that story. So what we did was we took 2 of the speeches from that It Gets Better project. We also took Harvey Milk's very famous and inspiring Hope speech and set that to music. But Ben Moore, the composer, my friend, said we need a 4th message, and let's look for it. And so what he did was inspire me to write a poem about myself and about coming out. And so I did, and he was very glad to set that, and I was thrilled to be able to perform it. And I've performed it since 2011 in many places, and we are about to record it professionally as well, finally, which I'm thrilled about. The piece itself is about me coming out to my brother. He was the last in my immediate family that I told, because he was living in Hawaii, of all places, lucky him. And I was obviously living here, and it was difficult. We were not as close as we are now. He now lives in Oyster Bay, just up the road. I flew to Hawaii to see him there, and it was Christmas Day. I had been there the week leading up to Christmas Day, and I couldn't tell him until that day. It took a lot of courage. We were running on the beach, and that's when I told him, and you'll hear in the song what happens.
Running that day was easier than it had ever been. Barefoot, impressions in the sand chasing us. My legs taking over from my frozen mouth, frozen, despite the endless sun on our naked torsos, free but anxious. He ran for fun. I ran to buy yet more time. Was this the time? Could it be finally now? The diamond loomed overhead, jagged and large. It was a secret kept for years. Now the yearning to be known, delicate the dance of a brother's bond. Ending with the words, I am with you no matter what. They ring in the salt-scented air. Accept between us was
Good morning. I'm Jane Wyler, and my story is about coming out 47 years ago and about how UU sustained me. In 1973, the summer before my senior year of high school, a longtime friendship changed and blossomed into a romance. And before long, my parents questioned me about why I was spending so much time with this particular girl. And very naively, I came out to them. They were very angry and upset. And these are some of the things they said to me. You shouldn't act on your feelings. If you choose a gay lifestyle, you will end up cruising on the piers. You will end up a bag lady. I was angry that my feelings were seen as a lifestyle choice, and I was baffled by their dire predictions. How could my parents suddenly see me as such a different person? And I was clueless about what cruising was. I didn't know that gay people were excluded from some professions and had economic problems. But the bottom line was that my parents forbade me to continue seeing the girl, or they would throw me out of the house. And I felt like I was in a bad dream. But reluctantly, I left home, and I had just turned 17. Well, first, I moved in with a girlfriend, but when that didn't work out, I rented a room. And meanwhile, I had continued to attend high school, and I worked nights to support myself. And before being thrown out, I was a nerdy prep school kid. And I had scored well in my SATs, and I had really seemed destined to go to a top-tier college. But in that tumultuous year, I was just grateful to get in anywhere, because I missed all the application deadlines. So after a year went by, I was allowed back in my parents' house. Although I really was traumatized, and I never completely regained a feeling of safety or belonging. Well, in my mid-20s, when I went to graduate school, I was grateful to return home so I could live for a few years rent-free. And my family and I actually got along well because we pioneered the concept of don't ask, don't tell. Well, then it was my late 20s, and I was working professionally. I was out of the house, had my own apartment, and I entered into a long-term relationship with a woman named Pamela Schneider. And Pam and I raised her 3 children. I have a photo of them. Here, you take your kids to Washington, D.C., right? Everybody does that. So we're with, and a few of their friends, and there we are. And in the 8 years that we were together, my parents and I, my siblings and my parents came to accept Pam and her kids. And here we are at Pam and me at my sister's wedding, and I'm the maid of honor. That's why I'm wearing that strange hat. But my family was still deeply ashamed of me and the relationship, and they never told anyone about it. And in fact, they described Pam as my roommate. Well, time went by, it was the late 80s, and I was in my early 30s, and I told my parents that Pam and I had decided to have a child and that I would bear the child, and my parents were appalled. They were worried for me, for the child. They were worried for Pam's kids. They were worried for our family. What would people think? They thought it was morally terrible. And they wrote me a letter, an 11-page letter, saying that if we waited at least a year before I tried to get pregnant, then, and I'm going to quote from the letter, they said, "We will never be happy with the plan, and we fear that we could never be close to you or your child. But we would do our best to approximate the behavior of grandparents of normally conceived grandchildren. But if you decline, we will have no further contact with you." So once again, I was given a choice of living my life or being part of my family. Well, it took me a few years to conceive, and in the meantime, my parents got adjusted to the idea, and actually they ended up, why is this clicker not working? Being loving grandparents. And when the twins were born, Pam and I decided that we wanted a spiritual foundation for our family, so we went church shopping, and we became active members of our local UU congregation, Community Church of New York. And the first 2 years of the twins' life were just full of joy, and we moved to Port Washington. But unfortunately, when the boys were 3, Pam suddenly died in a commuting accident. So after Pam died, my life was just turned upside down. Financially, I was really screwed. Pam and I had become domestic partners in 1993, and that, unfortunately, being domestic partners didn't help me one bit. The kids and I didn't qualify for Social Security, survivorship benefits, because we weren't, I wasn't married. And I won a lawsuit on behalf of her estate because of the accident, but I wasn't a beneficiary because we weren't married. And ironically, my parents and my sister were the ones who very gently and gracefully helped me out financially. Well, during this time, I had almost no emotional support. At my job, I didn't get 1 day of bereavement leave because I wasn't married. I was in the closet with my coworkers because they were very conservative, and so they really couldn't be supportive. My family and friends all still lived in New York City, and no one understood that I was a widow, because back then there was no gay marriage. So I felt invisible and alone and in my grief, and yet I had to be strong for my boys. And in that time of crisis, UU, our congregation, and others provided crucial emotional and spiritual support. Community Church, this is the domestic partnership, sorry. Community Church of New York had a huge memorial for Pam, and the minister was there, and then we also had a wake for Pam, and the minister came and officiated at that. And we had just joined UUCSR, and Our minister, Tom Chulak, recognized I was a widow, and he did pastoral counseling. He referred me to a bereavement group, which was for young widows and widowers. All heterosexual except me, but gotta break down those walls. They were very helpful to me. And in the RE program, the boys were within the embrace of loving, open-minded teachers and parents and people who thought that having a gay mom was no big deal. And in RE, my boys just learned and experienced our UU principles about diversity. And during the years that followed, there were so many opportunities in this congregation and in our denomination available to us. And over the summers, we went to Ferry Beach in Maine, and this is a group of transgendered people. Back in, 25 years ago, there was a transgendered conference at Ferry Beach. We weren't at that, but we were there, just at Ferry Beach. We went to, the boys went to Sophia Foz Camp, and they played in the Intergenerational Jazz Band, and they went in summer internships at the SAF, Student Activity Fund. They traveled to New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina, and they did coming of age. And I got involved in Interweave and the choir and taught RE, so it was wonderful. Well, when the boys were 9, I met Jill Marcus, and we've been together for 20 years. And Jennifer Brower performed our commitment ceremony. And that commitment ceremony was attended by our entire families, my family, Jill's family, all the generations, and Pam's kids and Pam's grandchildren. The commitment ceremony was really a transformative experience because there was no shame or secrecy anymore, only dignity and joy and community. So, in conclusion, my journey reflects the rejection which many people, LGBT people of my generation faced. But I am one of the lucky ones because in my family we rebuilt the relationships and I found UU. And for the past 30 years, UU has been a loving, affirming community and a welcoming sanctuary for me and my boys. So I say to this generation, this new generation of LGBT kids, it gets better. You will be found. Thank you.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear, like you could fall, no one would hear?
Let that lonely feeling wash away, 'cause maybe there's a reason to believe
In 2014, a very special piece of music was written by Laura Kaminsky, composer, and two librettists, Mark Campbell and Kimberly Reed. It is the first of its kind, an opera with a transgender woman and her transition as the story and as the celebration of that transition. It is loosely based on Kimberly Reed's life, who is a trans woman and a filmmaker, a writer as well. And she is from Montana, if you can imagine what that must be like. They created this character in celebration of what Kimberly went through, and she will tell you herself, she had it pretty easy. Her family accepted her. She has been welcomed into the creative community very, very openly. And she was never confronted with violence, as so many trans people are. This year alone, 18 transgender people have been murdered in this country alone, and we're only in October. So the importance of this opera, this story, and the story of our LGBTQ family and friends are of utmost importance even today. And I have been performing this incredible opera for the past year with Blythe Gessert, who is in the choir. Many of you know her. She's not here today, but she is with us in spirit. She has performed this role, I believe, in 10 different productions. I'm about to do my 4th, and I've done them all with her, which is wonderful. We've taken it to places like Boise, Idaho, places in Colorado and in the South, where this story is needed more than it is here today, although it is still very much needed. I am thrilled to be able to perform a little number from it with Leah Wool.
Like every other boy, I have a paper route. And like every good boy, I wake each morning, ride my bike around with my jacket on, and enjoy the thump of a well-aimed paper as it lands. However, unlike every other boy, I sometimes wake extra early while everyone's asleep. Ride my bike around with my jacket on and a blouse underneath. A blouse I stole from a neighbor's clothesline. It isn't much, but fits my 12-year-old frame. And just feel so right. And the papers still get delivered. The yet delivered. I'm home before anyone sees me, before anyone wakes up. I remove the blouse and hide it where it never will be found. I button up a thick flannel shirt, put my jacket back on, and get ready for school. One day I'm braver and tuck two rolled up socks inside the darts of the blouse. What could be a breast is gently grazed by my throwing arm. Other girls are getting theirs too. Just feels so it all just feels so
Although we LGBTQ plus people have been successfully interwoven into our UU communities, that is not true for the larger world. Our young people, particularly those who stand out because of race, gender identity, or gender fluidity, pay a high price. They may end up homeless, desperate, suicidal, and the targets of other people's hatred. Pride for Youth, a part of the Long Island Crisis Center, has been around since 1993, serving teens and young adults in Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. Their path has been tied with us in various ways. With the Garden City UU congregation, they sponsored the very first LGBTQ prom in the United States. Our own Charlie Arrowwood in RE serves as their community mobilization coordinator. And today with us, we have Fiona, who is representing for them here in our pews. They do good work. They do important work. And we would like to have them receive today's offering. Checks may be made out to the Long Island Crisis Center or to UUCSR with LICC in the memo. If you are placing a pledge payment, check the plate. Please mark it as such. Will the ushers please come forward?
I invite you to join with me now in a time of meditation and prayer. I invite you to take a deep breath and be nowhere but here, holding all that we have heard in the music and all that's been spoken. Mysterious spirit of infinite diversity, we have heard and felt so very much this morning in worship. Grant us the strength and courage to do the work that we know lies before us. Open our eyes that we may see the dynamics at play in our lives and in our world. Open our eyes that we might see how to help bring about greater understanding and how to work with others to end discrimination and oppression and all the impulses that cause one to deny who they truly are. Open our ears that we may hear the cries of all people for recognition, to know that they are belonging, that they are part of this community of all souls. Open our ears that we may hear the sound of justice being worked out, that we may hear the sounds and songs of affirmation and liberation. Open our minds that we may understand the ways to direct our energies and enlist the aid of others in the work of bringing to our world greater equity and compassion and peace. Open our hands to accept the tasks handed to us and empower us to do the work of reaching out and gathering in. Open our hearts that we might know ourselves, each and every one of us, and all people as remarkable creatures made in the image of divinity. Help us to know that we are each a glorious expression of human complexity and variety and worthy of love. Open in all these ways. We are also vulnerable to pain and outrage and fear and bitterness. And so, Spirit at work in the heart, protect us. Keep us from growing hard, small, frightened hearts. Deepen in us our faith in the power and potential of humankind. Deepen in us our faith in the sources of strength that come from within and beyond. We still have so much work to do in building the beloved community. Spirit at work in the heart, help us do that work. For the prayers held in the silent sanctuary of each heart, I say, so may it be, and amen.
I'm straight, male, white, Anglo-Saxon, and for longer than I care to admit, I was Protestant. My mother always gave me credit for having the courage of my convictions. My favorite song in the 60s was Sammy Davis Jr. singing, "I Gotta Be Me." But when I was most like me, asking why, questioning authority, trying to reconcile inconsistencies and contradictions, my privilege did not offer me safe space. I was often excluded from groups that looked like me and was sometimes punished by them. So it was easy for me to identify with the marginalized, those who walked the walk, those who celebrated their bodies as well as their souls. Beyond any reason or expectation, I was welcomed by them, whether it was in East New York or in Nicaragua or in a gay pride parade. I belonged to Judson Memorial Church in Greenwich Village for 33 years, where out gay Obie Award-winning minister Al Carmines was the assistant since 1963. I learned at Judson that inclusive language was normal, that gay was normal, that homophobia and language that excludes are oppressive. Whether you have one rule, 7 principles, 10 commandments, or 613 laws, in a community of sameness, they're rarely put to the test. People who do not look like us, or talk like us, or have sex like us are a gift because they call us to flesh out our principles, to be our best possible selves, to provide and be a welcoming and safe space for all.
Thank you, Steve. That was not planned, at least by me. I am a member of Judson Memorial Church, and I'm not there now because I'm here. And when I'm not there, I'm usually in Unitarian Universalist spaces. I am the Reverend Michael Crumpler, the LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director at the Unitarian Universalist Association. I'm based in New York City. And wow, what an amazing service. Thank you so much for bearing your lives, your souls, both in word and music, and it has just been amazing. A large part of what I do is work with congregations around the nation to basically support your Welcoming Congregations programming. The Welcoming Congregations program was started back in 1990. I was in high school, afraid and out, long before I would ever come out. Today I stand here having been a veteran in the Air Force, closeted, all kinds of, issues that you knew about and were preparing for long before I ever thought I would be called into this place, into ministry. And so it's with great joy that I get to hear all that was going on in this space and in this faith before I would ever know that I would be a part of it. So thank you. Welcoming congregations, thank you so much also for being the first opportunity for me to witness the fruition of the 5 practices of Welcome Renewal, which we have started this year. The 5 practices of Welcome Renewal is the new framework through which we are encouraging congregations to continue your welcoming congregation. The 5 practices of welcome, you've done like 4 of them right here today. You're already done for the year. The hope is that congregations would rather than just becoming welcoming once in a lifetime and having a rainbow flag on the front of the church once, that we would always be renewing, always be learning, always be celebrating our welcome. The first practice is becoming a welcoming congregation. The second practice is welcoming worship services. You've done 1 already. You got 1 more to go over the next 12 months. The third is welcoming days of observance, Coming Out Day, Transgender Day of Remembrance, Bi Visibility Day. These days, naming them in your community, letting both folks in your pews and in the world know that you see them and that you love them and that you celebrate them. The fourth is an opportunity for you to practice religious education around welcoming. We'll be producing a welcoming webinar for you to learn about the Equality Act this year. All you have to do is just show that, make it available to your community, and finally give to an organization near and dear to your hearts. You've done it. So this is beautiful. Most days I sit in my home behind an office, conjuring up ways for communities that I'll never visit to be loving and affirming. And so whenever I get to see that in practice, it's beautiful. And you have done that today, done a great service. I've live streamed some of your programming in the Welcoming Congregations of Unitarian Universalism Facebook page so that you can demonstrate for others what this looks like in lived experience. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Susan. Thank you all for allowing me to be here, and I will be back.
I'm not used to these shoes. Somebody had to hold up the Q in LGBTQ. And I'd rather walk in these than kneel on rice. So, or flog. You've seen our table in the lobby since last spring. We used to be a committee called Interweave. Now we're the LGBTQ plus subcommittee of the Social Justice Committee, and we take that seriously. We belong there to do the work that still needs to be done. We need to be interwoven with the work of Social Justice Committee on mass incarceration, solitary confinement, and addressing white supremacy. Our LGBTQ youth are at higher risk for drug use, homelessness, suicide, and becoming victims of violence. LGBTQ people, especially our trans brothers and sisters, have a greater likelihood of being incarcerated and once there, ending up in solitary confinement for their own protection. Take that to a power of 10 for our sisters and brothers of color. We may be interwoven into this congregation, but we are not so comfortable elsewhere. Even in this congregation, some of us feel more comfortable than others. Some of us blend in nicely, and some do not. I'm a fiber artist, so I know that any good weaving needs a pop of color. We are a tapestry in this congregation made up of many colors and textures. Some of us pop, but everyone together holds the safe space that makes this a sacred sanctuary for all of us. We want to be visible to everyone who enters our doors to let them know that this is a sacred place, a sanctuary. You will see us at our table in the lobby. You will see these cute little flags. You will see these flags on tables at coffee hour and during other events. These flags welcome everyone because we have a letter for everyone. L stands for lesbian, women seeking women. G stands for gay, men seeking men. It also means happy and joyful. And we take that seriously. That's our secret power, pursuing happiness in the face of hate for centuries. If you're feeling happy and joyful and you see this flag, please join us. B stands for bisexual, men and women seeking men and women. T stands for transsexual, people whose souls cry out for a body that matches their inner calling. Q stands for queer. It also stands for queen. It means also, queer also means odd or different, and a calling to be that bright, glittery spot of color. We take that seriously too. It's another one of our secret powers. Being fabulous, no matter what anyone else thinks. So, if you're feeling odd or different, and who hasn't had one of those days, please join us at our tables. Our young people come to us with a whole new set of letters: intersex, non-binary, gender non-conforming, and more. They come with pronouns that challenge our notions of language. We encourage our young people to join us. The plus sign also stands for all the missing letters and our friends and allies who join with us and work with us to make this congregation and the world at large a more just and loving community. Please help us demonstrate our commitment to welcoming by getting a rainbow sticker on your name tag at our table. Please join us at our tables with the flag if you are feeling like doing so. Let us practice welcoming together. Blessed Mother, him, sorry. Good thing I have Jennifer here. All right, I didn't write that down. We have another hymn.
We do, right here.
There it is, yes. And this one, if you are comfortable, we'd like to ask you to both stand up and to hold hands. The words are here. You don't have to hold on to your hymnal unless you feel the need to do so.
Can you see this? I can't see this. So I'm gonna give you this if you want it. This is easier to see.
We're going to sing it through 3 times. It's written by Libby Broderick, and she is a lesbian performer. Blessed Mother, Gaia, our beautiful blue Garden of Eden in the vastness of space. We ask your guidance as we seek to accept our own unique gifts and to value uniqueness in others. Help us make this sanctuary a sacred space where we can love and be loved, enjoy and share joy, comfort and be comforted. Let your abundant diversity become ours. May it be so. Blessed be.
Amen.